Greetings, cultivators worldwide. Jordan River here, back with more Growcast, and it's good vibes. Today we have Weed Should Taste Good. Miles is back on the show. You guys love him. He's a breeder. He's a natural farmer. He's working with Build the Soil. He's putting out ferments. Today's episode is awesome. We dive into biology and soil growing and making your own ferments and breeding and just about everything. You also get into Miles's philosophy a little bit here. I know you're going to love today's episode. Before we jump into it, though, shout out to Homegrown VA. That's right, our choice hydro store partners in Richmond, Virginia. We were just up there for the Riser Rich Breeder Workshop. What an amazing weekend that was. Shout out to all the VA Gromies. Shout out to the East Coast chapter of our membership. And shout out to Homegrown VA for hosting us. Homegrown VA is an amazing hydro store. They're legacy owned. They know what they're talking about if you need garden advice, and they have a great selection. The staff, the selection, the space, it's all amazing. And they support the community with education. Homegrown VA not only hosts Growcast grow classes, they do classes all the time. Free workshops, master classes, instructionals, how-tos, really, really cool stuff from beginner to advanced. Homegrown VA is our choice store in the Richmond, Virginia area. Thank you to Homegrown VA for not only being a great hydro store, but supporting the community and supporting Growcast through our education. So keep it up. And if you're ever in the Richmond area, you know where to go. Homegrown VA. We love them. Great selection, great staff, tons of knowledge, and check out all those awesome classes that they put on. Thank you to Homegrown VA. Find them at 1704 Arlington Road up in Richmond. Really nice location, and pop on in. Tell them that Growcast sent you. All right, let's get into it with Weed Should Taste Good. Thank you for listening and enjoy the show. Hello, podcast listeners. You are now listening to Growcast. I'm your host, Jordan River, and I want to thank you for tuning in again today. Before we get started, as always, I urge you to share this show. Send this link to a grower. It's how you can help us out the most. Or turn someone on to growing for the first time. That helps us on our mission of overgrowth. See everything that we're doing at growcastpodcast.com. You'll find it all there, the seeds, the membership, the classes. I appreciate you members so much, and every single one of you listeners. Today we have a return friend of the show. Very excited to speak to the man himself. Natural farmer, breeder, clothing apparel line designer. He's a good guy. He's on the line again. Weed Should Taste Good. Miles is here. What's up, Miles? How you doing, man?
Yeah, thanks. I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me, Jordan. I love it. Everything good.
As they say, your reputation precedes you, my friend. Thank you for coming back on the show. My audience loves the Weed Should Taste Good episodes. Again, if you guys don't know Weed Should Taste Good, hit them up on Instagram at Weed Should Taste Good, as well as the website, right?
Yeah, weedshouldtastegood.com.
That's where you can find them, but I know you loyal Growcast listeners are excited for a return episode. Miles, what have you been up to, man? It's been a minute since we've spoken. Tell me about the travels and the classes and the seeds and all that.
Yeah, man, I've been doing well. Everything great. I've been the main focus has been my ferments, the fermented plant extracts, and working with Build the Soil, my distributor, on getting those far and wide and in as many grow stores and grows as possible. That's been kind of the main focus for the past year and a half. And then still doing seeds. I did some work with a heirloom Balochistan landrace from North Pakistan.
Wow.
That I crossed to a bunch of different good stuff and seen some great results from. But the teaching and the classes and speaking gigs and throwing little events has really been my focus. Is like, because we did all these trade shows, we did all of them, NECAN, Lucky Leaf, Inda, like all the trade shows, and they're fun and all, but like you pay all this money, you get a booth, and you hope your crowd shows up and some of your people show up and there's a bunch of people that aren't into what you're doing. And I eventually I was just like, man, for the money we spend getting these booths at these expos, we could just we could just get our own venue, have our crowd out, do something really specific for what our people are about.
Yes.
And I seen you doing the same thing, like with the class. I attended your Denver class with Queen of the Sun Grows. That was such a great event. Like,
oh, thank you.
Great information. Bro, I had so much fun, and you attracted such a cool crowd in Denver. It was like all my people were there that I don't ever get to see. I was like, oh shit, Growcast like pulled them out and everybody's
I love it,
bro. And honestly, like y'all inspire me to do a similar thing, to be like, wow, like y'all got such a cool crew. Like everybody down with Growcast is like just about it and like good heart. and it's all love. And that's the culture and the community that I want to create and cultivate within the bigger ganja scene. We're really pulling together like the heart. And
dude, that means a lot to me.
I appreciate it. Bro, I appreciate you so much, dude. I love what you do, and I love the vibe you build. So super inspired always.
I don't want to blow smoke either here, but it's very impressive what you've done, man. Like you said, working with Build a Soil with your plant ferment line, and like how deeply you've come to understand this plant. I look at what you're doing, I'm like, damn, that's fucking cool. Your clothing line, man, I would say that you have one of the strongest brands in cannabis.
Yes,
if not the strongest brand in cannabis, to be honest. And yeah, I don't know. It likewise, dude. That means a lot that you say that like you're inspired by stuff I've done. I feel the same way. And it was a blast when we were all hanging out, right? The soil class with Alexandria and the Tetra meetup. That was some fun times, man. It's like you say, good vibes.
Yeah, man. Good things is like great. Is just grateful for Denver vibes that we can all get together. We're like, it's good timing, our class and your event. So
that's cool.
Yeah, everything great. And another thing that I really loved that you guys did real quick was that your little your like cup thing in Oklahoma. Like I liked how y'all did the like personalized cups where it was like instead of like best this, best that, it was like Jordan's favorite herb.
Thank you, man. I hadn't seen anyone do that before. Yeah, exactly. Farmer John picked his favorite. All the guest speakers got to pick their favorite flower.
Yes. And that is so cool because it creates like this personal connection where it's like, yo, I didn't know this guy, but like he showed up, he talked to us about something. I learned something from him. And then he told me my herb was his favorite. Like it like really creates something personal and a connection. And I was like, man, that is a fucking good idea. I got to do that. Like, I'm going to use that one. That's such a good idea.
I love it. That's killer. And you should have seen Farmer John, by the way. He was like torn. He was like devastated having to pick between a few of his favorites. It's great, man. Great. It's great. Well, listen, today we're going to get into all the things that we just mentioned. I want to talk about your ferments. I want to talk about the breeding work that you've been doing and all of that. Before that, though, before we get off of classes, what do you have coming up? Where can people find you in the near future?
Yes, give thanks. So coming right up October 20 and 21, we got this little event out here in Western Colorado at Build a Soil. This is the first time we've ever thrown an event at the retail store where it's basically like a vendor's day. We do this at other grow stores all the time for Build a Soil products. We go to Chicago, we go around to distributors and talk about our products, but we've never done that here at our store, at Jeremy's store. So the day one, October 20th in Montrose, Colorado is kind of an open house, a little smoke sesh. There's going to be some glass blowers there. And you can enter and then day two is a cup at a private location, October 21st, Saturday. And that we'll be taking entries for the cup on Friday, and Saturday we'll be talking about living soil. There'll be some educational stuff, some background and learning about the history of Build a Soil and the evolution of it. There'll be some Q&A sessions with myself and Jeremy and some of the other Build a Soil product crew. Nick Nooch Portal will be doing a talk about the superiority of living soil herb for resin production, particularly because he's a hash maker and tuned into that. So that's in a couple weeks in October, end of October here in Western Colorado. That's called the Build a Soil Days Living Soil Cup. And that's and I took a note out of your book and I got a couple personalized trophies for that one. Like Nick's favorite. I was like, this one's for Jordan, bro.
Man, I would love to get out there for that. We were just talking off air. I'm going to see if I can like make it happen. Just get out there.
Bro, keep me posted. If you can make it, like I said, I'll put you up. We'll make it. We'll make it all.
Dude, you're awesome. That's fucking so dope. Check it out, everybody. Living Soil Cup. And shout out to Build a Soil, man. Doing it big. Yeah. Another really strong brand in cannabis. But listen, let's go after that topic, working with Jeremy, that's got to be fucking awesome. And dealing with so many growers now that you have a distributor in the respected and renowned Build a Soil. Let's talk about what you've learned or what we haven't learned, to be more specifically. Like, after speaking with so many people in this field, living soil, liquid organics, ferments, everything you do, what would you consider to be some misconceptions that we hold as home growers, commercial growers, organic growers, or mistakes that you see people make a lot when it comes to this sort of thing?
Yeah, good question. Well, I'll say the most common thing I see that I don't love about people just going living soil, usually in the first couple of years when they do it, is the tendency to grow in small pots, in like a 3 or a 5 gallon pot, or even smaller sometimes.
Right.
And you can put a crop out, you can make a good living soil crop in that, but the concept that we really push is these larger pots, like a bed that takes up your entire or most of the footprint of your light. And the more soil you use, the more nutrition you can provide for those roots. And also, when you're in a larger bed of soil, you don't have to transplant, or you don't have to reuse this. You reuse the soil. You don't have to do anything in between harvests. You basically re-amend and put your plant, you harvest, re-amend, and put your plants right back into the soil the old ones came out of. When you grow in a 3 gallon pot, like, you got to pull the root ball out and shake it out. It's all tight and densely bound up in there. So I see that a lot of like grow, and it breaks my heart, because I'm like, man, you'd be getting like a lot bigger yields, better crops, everything, if you just went up into a bed. And the only thing I see that really stops people from doing that is renting. When you're growing in a space, you want to be able to pick everything up and move it just in case.
True.
A bed doesn't provide that. But I mean, even if you did 35, like 2 35 gallon pots, 2 earth boxes, something. I mean, just basically the bigger soil mass, and not necessarily in depth, but in footprint. Because I don't think you need more than 15, 18 inches of soil to start out with in living soil. But yeah, big pots will make a big difference. Or just go the living soil beds the way we teach, or the way Jeremy teaches on Build the Soil the YouTube channel. So yeah, big soil, big roots, big shoots. That's kind of one of the main tenets of living soil that I see kind of shunned by new living soil growers.
And they're coming over from a different style usually, right? And they're like, okay, these are the pots that I have. I'm going to run it the same way. But you're right. How much are they missing out on when every time you do a run, you have to remix your soil, essentially? Like you said, you pull out the root ball. Most of the time they dump out the soil out of the pot. They put it into a big pile. They might re-amend it, right? But that's breaking up all that mycelial network, all of the things that could like be supercharging your garden if you just let it sit. Is that, do you think, the main reason why big pots are better for this type of growing?
Yeah, it's along those lines. I think that, like, well, one, like the process you just described of dumping out the soil, remixing it, repotting it, that's all work. That's time. Time is money, you know.
True.
And like, we only get so much hours in a day, every one of us. But I think that it's like your nutritional density, like a small pot, it's like a little small bowl of food, and a plant can only eat so much out of that pot that's available in the form of nutrition, organic matter in the soil. And once that bowl of food is empty, that plant is struggling, and it needs more input. It needs more input. When you got a bigger pot, you got like more room for food in the bowl.
Way more minerals in there.
Yeah, and the roots don't stop growing and looking for it. The mycelial network doesn't limit itself in how far it will like expand to translocate nutrients from organic matter to the roots. So the bigger soil is key. It's just one of the things that, and I mean, there's all kinds of big pots, big beds, sub-irrigated planters. There's all kinds of options. But like you said, people are coming from another grow system like rock wool or cocoa or just peat and perlite. And this is one of the main differences between those two, of saying like, oh, well, I've never seen a 4x4 bed of soil underneath one light. Like that's unique to this system, to this style of growing. So people are kind of slow to catch on, I feel like sometimes. But when they do, when they switch, I never seen anyone go back. Nobody ever goes back from a bed to small pots.
Yeah, that's true. I will agree with that. I don't think that's something I've seen when it comes to a soil grower. So I love what you recommend instead. The first thing, or one of the things that you said, was an earth box. Those earth boxes are so fucking nice, dude. I am blown away. I mean, I knew they were going to be easy and work well, but Jesus Christ, it's like autopilot. And if you're in like an apartment or you're renting, like you said, you can still get away with it. I feel like it's way less dirty from just the way that it's constructed to the fabric mulch thing that you put over, like makes it look really clean and you're not like spilling out soil. Dude, I am blown away by that technology. And it seems to be one of the easiest ways to grow like premium organic cannabis and still have it contained. You don't have this like massive wormy out of control thing.
Oh, those are great. Those sub-irrigated planters. What's the other one? There's another one called a city picker box.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
There's a auto pots are like kind of they're another form of sub-irrigated planter. But yeah, the concept is that you have your soil mass and you have a little tiny air gap, like under the soil, there's a little bit of air. And then beneath that air, there's a wicked water layer, so you have a little bit of soil touching this water, but in this airspace, like certain contact points. And that water layer just wicks up through that contact point into the rest of the soil and maintains moisture throughout. And that's why, like you're saying, it's autopilot. It's easy. You just sit there, you keep that little bottom reservoir full with nutrient solution with water with some microbes, and yeah, the soil just stays going. Yeah.
Yeah, I do think it's probably the best way to teach a first time grower how to grow, honestly, because it's like pour water down this tube. Over and underwatering is such a major problem, and that sub irrigation is just, it's fucking golden. So I think that's great.
Yep.
The other thing I would say is, my last few runs, I've been doing a liquid organic, right? There are a lot of product lines out there. You have one of them that are 100% microbe enriched, microbe friendly, worm friendly, all the things that we worry about when we think about traditional fertilizers, right? Forever chemicals, polluting waterways. All that stuff isn't really a problem when you choose these like liquid organics. And I think that if you're not going to go into a bigger pot, your other option is to provide that mineral content, like you said, through a different source that's not a salt fertilizer, but like a liquid organic. It could be a little cleaner in some people's eyes.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, it depends which ones you're using because there's a lot out there. But yeah, it's definitely, like you said, biologically based, biologically charged. It's using biology and respecting the biology that's there instead of just providing something that's readily plant available, that's nutrition that the plant could just uptake immediately and thereby disregard all the microbial interactions that the plant is like evolved millions of years to create these symbiotic relationships with bacteria and fungi and all the microbes in the soil. When you disregard that and you just feed fertilizer that's readily available, certain parts of the plant like stop functioning because they get lazy. They're like, oh, I got the nutrition. I don't need to be friends with a microbe to get what I need. I'll just take it from the fertilizer.
Mm-hmm.
Screw the microbes. When you lose that the biological association, affiliation, whatever you want to call it, when you lose that plant roots to soil microbes interaction, you lose quality. Quality of your crop goes down. It might look dank, it might yield good, but the actual finer point quality, the actual terpene density and nuances of the flavor, that starts to diminish when you step away from those biological interactions in the soil.
I think that's why people who are using bottled salt fertilizers go synganic so much. I think that's why you see these people like adding microbes and they have to reapply, but I think there's a reason why. I don't think these people are just spending money on these products for no reason. I think you're right. The interaction was with the microbes and maintaining some level of that exchange seems to be a key to quality in a lot of people's minds in this community, I would say.
100%. Even outside of our, it's almost hard to find somebody out there in the ganja game as a grower who won't admit to what you just said, that at least adding biology helps in a synthetic system, let alone saying, oh, living soil always creates a higher quality product. Like, not everybody's going to, but a lot of people, almost everybody's going to agree, adding biology is going to increase quality.
I've certainly seen a difference.
Yeah, man. I just lean into that. Like more biology, more like lean in.
Exactly. I think that we agree on more as a community and we tend to focus on the things that divide us. But yours are just, loaded with like a different type of microbe, right?
Yeah.
When you talk about your ferments, we're talking about very specific processes going on, right? Can you talk about the science behind that and like these facultative anaerobes, these microbes that exist in this like no oxygen environment, and then you put them into the soil where there is oxygen and they kind of change and do shit. What can you teach us about your ferments specifically and how they work?
For sure. So my ferments utilize a specific family of bacteria called lactobacillus. These are commonly found in the stomachs of ruminant grazing animals, on the surfaces of leaves, in water puddles. They're ubiquitous. These microbes are everywhere all the time. It's very hard to find a place on Earth where you're not going to find some form of lactobacillus just naturally occurring. Like you said, they're facultative, so they will live in both air, with air and without air. So they'll live underwater, or they'll live in fog or in dew. So lactobacillus will live with or without water and with or without air. Lactobacillus also is antipathogenic, so it's generally a good guy. It fights off the bad guys. It's saprophytic, which means it breaks down organic matter. It eats dead and decaying things, which means it doesn't eat living things. It won't kill living things, and it protects living things from things that would hurt them. That's antipathogenic and saprophytic. So then one of the most important descriptions of these microbes is that they're microaerophilic, which means it relates to being facultative, where they can live in water or not water, they can live in air or not air, but they prefer environments that have less oxygen than the atmosphere.
Oh,
not zero oxygen. So they're microaerophilic. So they prefer places with less O2, less dissolved oxygen than just out in the air. They'll exist out in the air, open air, but they prefer, and that's the soil. That the soil is the place where there's less oxygen than out in the air, out in the world, exposed to oxygen. So once you know these things about lactobacillus, you can kind of start to harness it and use it in different ways and understand how it works in your compost pile, in your soil, in a ferment. And that's kind of where I ran with it, was saying, this is what these microbes do. Here's what I can do with them. And of course, what I do with them is based on ancient old techniques that are practiced in different iterations, but all around the world to this day by natural farmers, by people who are outside of the reach of the chemical fertilizer industry.
Mm-hmm.
People, subsistence farmers. I've talked to people about down in Mexico, Chiapas farmers using this technique that's ancient, using milk and water and plant matter. And these, so what we're doing is really just resurrecting and trying to carry the torch of these ancient practices,
ancient knowledge.
Yeah, that's just been overcovered slightly in the last several generations by the whole better living through chemistry, industrial agriculture model.
Right. Well, we tend to swing too far, you know.
Well, yeah, I mean, we got where we're at because of it. So we got where we're at with all technology, able to do these podcasts and connect all over the world with
exactly.
people. We got here from industrial ag, but we're not. I don't believe we're going to get to the next place solely using it. We have to create this continuity from the ancient practices into modern and integrate them into the modern.
I love that. And yeah, that's absolutely right. Lactobacillus, though, this drives your whole process. Everything you do is based around this microbe and applying it to different recipes, essentially, of organic matter and which contain different levels of minerals. Is that like the name of the game for your product development? More or less, it's like the same process I use, and I substitute out different food sources. Right. So you know how you are what you eat. And microbes are the same way. And our leavings, our waste products, are relative to what we eat. So when you feed these microbes just rice or wheat bran or something really basic but nutrient dense, they will create one set of secondary metabolites, is what we call it. This is like the waste product of the microbes, in a bacterial secondary metabolite. So if I feed my microbes something green and leafy, their secondary metabolites are going to relate more to the nutrition that they found in that green leafy plant matter food source than if I feed them a bunch of peaches or fruit. Their waste product, their secondary metabolites, will reflect their food source. And different food sources can these resulting secondary metabolites in the different food sources can provide really targeted, not just nutrition. I mean, because these ferments provide some nutrition, but primarily they're providing biostimulants, enzymes, organic acids,
all kinds of different secondary metabolites, bacterial creations from the plant matter. And that's going to be really what's primarily affecting the soil in different ways.
Growcast membership, that's right. Join our membership, the Order of Cultivation, and get so many benefits. We got a whole new membership revamp coming. We're going to do monthly resources. We do our weekly Growcast TV live streams, but we're also adding members-only videos, additional giveaways, and like I said, a lot of cool instructional resources. So we're revamping membership, adding more benefits. We've got more member discounts on the way, including $20 off every single pack at Growcast Seed Co. Got some awesome drops available just for members only. So if you've been thinking about membership, or if you used to be in membership, jump on in. We're revamping the whole thing and adding a ton of new benefits. It's going to be my major focus going into the new year, and Growcast membership has what you need. If you like this show, you're going to love membership. We got hundreds of hours of bonus content, member discounts that'll pay for your membership 10 times over, and plus, like I said, exclusives for the community, like Growcast Seed Co. seeds, product testers that aren't available to the rest of the grow community yet, and genetics from other breeders that are only released to our community. We got a bunch of cool stuff going on. We want to help you make growing fun again, make growing easy, and we have so much cool stuff planned for you. Check it all out at growcastpodcast.com/membership. You'll love it. You can try 7 days free. Check out all the archives, use the discounts, and I know you're going to love it and want to stick around. So I hope to see you there. Huge thank you to all the members who make this show possible and make what I do possible. Going around to the country and meeting you guys in person has been such a blessing. And I appreciate not only every single listener, but all of you members supporting us as well. Growcastpodcast.com/membership. Come and hang out. Come and smoke with me in voice chat. I'll see you there, everybody. So I would love to talk to you about what you've learned or what's changed in recent time, like anything this year that maybe shifted your perspective on this process. I bet that you do a lot of different recipes and testing and things like that. What have you found as far as new information in your mind when creating these ferments?
So a couple things that have been helpful. One is foliar spraying, diluting my product and then spraying it on the plants is a real game changer. And I notice it almost every time I do it, the benefits, and I get a lot of feedback from that. That's kind of basic. It's on the label. So, but do it, follow it. But one thing for people making their own that I've kind of developed, and I don't necessarily do this on all mine, but this is about smell reduction, because the product smells funky. The more nitrogen in the food source, the worse the smell. And yeah, so people who can't brew them, or who want to brew them, often can't because of the smell is going to stop them. They don't want the smell to, affect family members or something, or just they don't want to smell it. So one trick with that is at the end of the brew, you can add humic acid powder, and that will reduce the smell a little bit. Another thing I do is when I brew, I could put, in some cases, for my products, I don't do this because the smell is part of the benefit of the product or the brand recognition. But I put some activated charcoal in a mesh bag and put it in the brew, and that again will reduce the smell at the end.
No kidding. That makes sense. A little carbon filter?
Yeah, a little carbon filter, a little humic source. I don't know, something going on there reduces the smell with the humic and the carbon and the charcoal. I don't know, but that's a nice little trick. And I just learned that last, I don't know, maybe a year before last. I can't remember. And really for me, in terms of developing this thing, it's really about working my farm. I have 5 acres out here in Western Colorado, and really I want to use the farm to support this business. It's a farm to farm product. I grow the plants that I ferment on my farm, or I grow as many as I can, as much of that as I can provide for myself, I do. And I want to expand that, and I want to enrich my land and make sure that the work I'm doing here is leaving a positive legacy on the soil, so that as I move on in life, this place keeps reaping the benefits of the work I did here.
I love that attitude, man.
Yeah, man, that's the mission of like all of us ultimately, is like, we're standing on holy ground. This is like this earth, the whole earth, every bit of it is worthy of our attention and care. And that's really the bottom line to living soil, is that this is about the earth and the water. And it's cool that we can grow dank in our closet with this technique, but ultimately I feel like it develops something bigger inside of us, like a respect for natural order and the natural ways, and a way to look at nature not as some place to go and take from, but as a place to receive information from and emulate it for our benefit, rather than just take.
That's well said, man. I could not have said that better myself. And I think that, like, as medicinal cultivators, you're right. We bring that philosophy inside of our homes, and we can control the environment. You basically get to play God in this scenario. And it's just fascinating because these plants are trying to express and please us so that we proliferate their genetics, right? Suffering willingly from the botany of desire.
Yeah.
But a lot of people have that mentality where they want it to be as much like the natural processes as possible, and then turned up to optimal conditions, right? So the perfect balance of soil life, the perfect environment. It's interesting when you take this philosophy inside. Do you have any good tips on growing this amazing frosty medicine in living soil? Like, again, what are some things that we might not be thinking of, or even any products that you've been adding to your grow recently, like any specific enzymes or stuff like that? Just tips on growing good indoor living soil weed.
For sure. I'll run through real quick my kind of go-tos. And this is all, for the most part, available at buildasoil.com. The soil is the most important part. Like, that's your nutrient bank and your media. It's you need it to maintain porosity for air and for water. You need it to drain properly. So I go with Build a Soil 3.0. The light works really well also. And if you're commercial, they have an ultralight mix that's like guaranteed to be never an issue with heavy metals. So the Soil 3.0, root-wise, soil microbes from Build a Soil. Kevin Rootwise is the man. He's like really developed a superior product, and that's your base level microbiology. That's what you need in the soil. It's got several different soil microbes, and it's so I always treat soil immediately with Rootwise.
It's your starter pack.
Yeah, and my ferments. Of course, I'll put those in together, no problem. Especially at the beginning, early on, I just treat the soil, get those microbes in there, get them working on the organic matter, breaking it down. Another one I love is the pure protein fish amino acids. This is a Build a Soil powdered product. It dissolves into water really well, and I foliar feed it primarily. In terms of keeping the soil fresh and potent, and what I would be adding to that soil over time in between runs and perhaps targeted at different times of growth. The blend, the soil nutrition blend from Build the Soil that I use is called Craft Blend. It's kind of their flagship amendment mix, and I use a good amount of Calphos.
Ooh, in what form?
Yeah, bro, powdered. It's kind of getting a little bit hard to find. I don't know. Build a Soil stopped carrying the powdered Calphos.
Interesting.
It's a soft rock phosphate, is a similar product, same thing. Gypsum, which is calcium sulfate, is another one I use a good amount.
I know you like that gypsum. You add a lot of calcium to your bed, huh?
Yeah. I mean, the 3.0 has plenty, but over time, calcium is just it's to me more important than nitrogen. Even my plants, I add very little nitrogen.
Seems to be the case, man. When I'm helping growers, I very rarely see a nitrogen deficiency. Like, really rarely. A lot of people see yellowing of any kind, and they're like, oh, that's a nitrogen deficiency. But I see all sorts of different stuff. And then, like you said, that calcium, the plant just chewing through it. And if you're not adding anything in liquid form especially, you better have enough in there as the plant uptakes it and literally jams it into the cell walls, right? It's not coming back. It's not being recycled or reused or anything. It's getting plugged in. So more calcium, you say?
Yeah, and the only issue with adding more calcium is that when you get calcium up into the right levels, you can see deficiencies in other things because it's getting better, more efficient use of the potassium, for instance.
Got to raise all those levels. That's true.
Yeah. So, but that's like good. You're getting like feeding increasing and plant growth correlating to that. So
Yep.
yeah, calcium is a big one for me. Foliar feeding again, and staying on top of pest management, keeping the yellow traps out to look out for root aphids or anything flying. I like to get the lights on and look up under the leaves, and you can kind of, if there's anything on the leaves, they show up real easy underneath, like just kind of looking through them.
Oh, that's a good piece of advice. You don't twist the leaves over to look at the bottom sides. You literally crouch down and look up at the light.
That helps me. Like I can turn over leaves all day, but like when you really get under the canopy and look through it from the other direction, the leaves are more translucent from underneath than from above. And when there's a whatever aphid or spider mite
pops right out.
Their little shadow.
I like that. That's a good piece of advice right there.
Yeah. And I love getting in the garden. I mean, that's the other thing I love to say is that the best thing you can add to the farm or to the garden is the grower's shadow, where it's just you being in there, being with the plants. And this is how we develop this like cool relationship. Like you were talking about the botany of desire, unwilling botany of, like we're in there being guided by these plants. They're giving off they're giving off oxygen that we're breathing. We're giving off CO2 that they're photosynthesizing. Like we're co-living, and they're guiding us, we're guiding them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really an interspecies relationship that we develop. And when we grow living soil, it's like a multi-interspecies relay. We're wrangling microbes, we're smoking ganja, living with ganja, like loving it.
Yeah, insects and worms, and it all becomes a system.
Yeah, it's a natural thing, and it's cooperative between all these different species. Like I said, it gives you a view of nature to emulate for solutions.
Yeah, I agree, man. That's a very good piece of advice. I want to drill down a little bit on when you mentioned foliar spraying ferment products. It's funny you say this because it's come up on a different episode recently. Because I think people do overlook that. Which types of ferments can we foliar spray? And which ones do you think have the most impact where your plants just love it?
So, I mean, any of my fermented plant extracts, which are water-based, can be foliar sprayed, no problem.
All of them.
All of mine, for the most part, will benefit. I just put out a willow one, which might not be as helpful. It's primarily a root thing, but any of my ferments can be foliar sprayed. The comfrey, I would say I get particularly more noticeable results from, perhaps. And also comfrey has, if you study it a little bit, it has some anti-pathogenic and anti-pest qualities as well. So I feel like the comfrey is a really great one to kind of be your go-to for foliar spraying, but any of them can be sprayed. The Korean natural farming sugar-based ferments are specifically meant to be sprayed in conjunction with other Korean natural farming inputs. That's the KNF thing. Korean natural farming is a little bit more nuanced in that it's not just like you make something and you use it. You make a set of things and recombine that set to create your inputs. And being the ferments in KNF being sugar based are not something I would generally apply outside of those KNF formulas, mixed with other Korean natural farming inputs. And that's key, that a lot of people make these sugar-based ferments and it's really fun and cool. And then they start dumping them on their plants and spraying them and stuff. And it's like, that's a simple sugar. It's still just a syrup with a plant-infused syrup. You do not want like sugars clogging up your stomata and your roots. And, those sugars are meant to be fed at super low levels, almost homeopathic levels, and fed in conjunction with other KNF preps. And they're signaling and feeding microbes and signaling the plant in unique ways. So that whole KNF thing is really, really interesting. And I would love to like see more people utilize it in expressive ways for their environment, because it so taps you into what you're growing and where you're growing and how you're growing and what's growing around you.
But they have their recipes. That's an old style, and they have their recipes. You don't want to be spraying, like you said, plant syrup on your plant too much. Like you said, you're going to clog the stomata, maybe attract something even. I don't know.
No, exactly. And that's why KNF is so, it's more nuanced and it's more in depth. And yeah, we have a great class in Houston coming up in November, actually, for the Korean natural farming vibes. That's specifically for cannabis. It's KNF just for cannabis, and you'll learn
Hey,
all
is
the.
this the nice class?
Yes, this is nice with Touched by Cannabis. Jace and Nick Portal and myself, we all will pull up in a spot and teach this thing and put the knowledge out there into the community. We do it a few times a year, and this is our first one in Texas. And yeah, we always have a great time. It's always kind of an immersive experience where you really get into it and learn a lot uh, from not only the instructions but from each other. We have good Q&A. We always want to hear from each person in the class to like address their specific concerns and needs. And yeah, we just make friends. It's like we were talking about earlier. We're building this vibe and building this community, and we're doing it next down in Texas, November 10th, 11th, and 12th.
Shit. I would be there, man. I'm on the East Coast. I'm hosting Nova Cup in Northern Virginia. Otherwise, I would be there. Because Houston's not too far from me. But it's funny you mentioned that. We had Touched by Cannabis on this show, and
yes.
They were talking about the nice class. So there you go, hearing it from the other side.
Yeah, Jace, he really developed something interesting and something impressive with the nice tech, which is he took Korean natural farming as instructed by Master Cho, who does not grow ganja, who is not into ganja, and he creatively and very meticulously and carefully made this system using the Korean natural farming techniques that is designed just for cannabis, specifically indoor, because that's how Jace grows primarily or entirely is indoor. So I've used elements of his system. Nick runs his system entirely, and Nick actually even like kind of developed it further and built on it and built out some of the assets and resources that to teach it. So yeah,
nice.
yeah, I'm glad you're doing a cup. Was it Nova, Virginia? You're doing that.
If I didn't have that, I'd be there.
Up, yeah, we'll get you to one of these. Like I said, just keep it on the radar, and we'll get you to one of these for sure.
Yeah, I'd like to attend that. That's cool. I like what Jules and Jace are doing out there. Good people.
Yeah, and I would love just to see your people. I would love to just meet some Growcast peeps, show up at at one of our classes, and just be like, "Oh, they've heard about it through Jordan's podcast."
Storm the class, bro.
Yeah,
we're gonna bust up the party.
Come through, fucking. Yeah, it's all about building community, and you guys build such a good vibe. So we'd love to have
you, man. You rock. Okay, geez, this episode's been flying by. I want to make sure that we have enough time to talk about your breeding work. We discussed it a little bit last time. I want to hear what you've been up to. That Mesa cookie still in my mind, fresh in my mind. Yeah. But what have you been up to? What's been the most recent pollination? All that good jazz.
The most recent pollination, what did I do? Last year I did an orange turbo F2 in honor of Frenchie Cannoli.
Oh, it's amazing.
That was one of his favorite strains.
Is that right?
I got the seeds from MTG Seeds, who I can't remember his name, but that breeder recently passed away. It's crazy. It's like Frenchie gone, and then his favorite strain was Orange Turbo, and that breeder gone. So,
jeez, man,
rest in power, all the legends and all these people who built this thing up before us. But so, and that's the nature of breeding, is like we're taking what came before us and developing it into what we think we're going to need in the future. So I did the Orange Turbo project. I made F2s, and I did some outcrossing to it to kind of citrusy lemon and orange, some trop in the mix and stuff like that. And then the winter, I did the Balochistan F2, or the Balochistan second inbreeding line. That Balochistan comes from this guy, Raisani Weed on Instagram, and Irazine IG, the Full Power Selection.
Yeah, nice.
The Indian Landrace Exchange guy. He went and like kind of found this farmer and distributed his seeds. I don't know how they worked it out, but these seeds that I got came from Raisani Weed in North Pakistan. And they're not necessarily like wild landrace strains. They're heirlooms. So these are strains that these North Pakistan growers have been harvesting for hash for generations, and it's a tradition there. And the plants are grown at high elevation, similar to where I'm at, up here in the western Colorado, the foothills of the Rockies. So
That's
that was
amazing.
yeah, man. It's cool that like we're guided by this plant. We're having this cool interaction with the plant, and that the hybrid vigor that comes from those North Pakistan landrace heirlooms, man, it's really interesting because like people don't understand how much vigor is lost when you're always crossing two things that are like in some way back related, like polyhybrids. They're all coming from like Afghan and Skunk One and Neville's, and like there's like 20 foundational strains that like
True.
created all like
All the shit we're
100.
smoking now.
Yeah, and it was just exponential. It was like 20 foundational strains turned into like 150 next gen strains, and the next gen strains turned into like 1,000. Now we're up into like tens and 50, and you got to like do your research hard before you even make a name to make sure somebody on it squatted on that.
Oh, dude, that's long gone. The name thing? Are you kidding me? We're running out of words.
Yeah.
We're running out of words, bro.
That's what I'm saying. So like, but the point is that when you take something that's completely outside of that polyhybrid gene pool, like a heirloom from North Pakistan that's been inbred out there for generations.
That's hybrid vigor. That outcross of that pure strain, that's hybrid vigor. Do you observe that? Is it about how fast it grows, how resistant it is? Like what makes you observe that quality?
Definitely growth patterns. I wouldn't say speed, but like just the way that they stretch and the way that they stack and the size of the leaves. I definitely see more like just monster fat leaves.
Dinosaur leaves.
Yeah, like just face and chest size fan leaves. And in just the quality, yeah, and resistances like vigor in terms of just standing up against environmental, whether it's heat, wet roots, dry roots, pests, whatever the environmental inadequacies are. These hybrid vigor plants seem to stand up to that a lot better.
Nice.
Yeah, and the flavors and they give these meaty. I did a chem, my inbred chem line to the Balochistan. And man, just like really unique, funky, not chems, like not getting chem from it, but totally like cheese and meat and sours and funks and like old school Afghan type of flavors and really nice expressions that are kind of relatable but unique. Like they're still like, oh, you don't get that very often.
Yeah. What about the Balochistan on its own? Is that what is that lending? Like what did that one smell like and taste like?
If you've ever grown the PCK that didn't turn purple, the Pakistan, it was like a Afghan, a real specific Afghan, I would say, but it got really big for me. The straight Balochistans, the buds got like large. I wouldn't say that it was like a super high yielder because it didn't stretch that much, but the buds got really large to the point that on some of them, I worried about mold. And that's like where I live in the desert, where it's so low of humidity. A bud has to get really fat and juicy to worry about mold on it. And the male I selected was this really, it was like an outlier, and it was like really stacked, short, squatty, and stacked like that densely. So the other ones kind of looked like typical males, kind of stretchy and lanky and spread out. And this guy was just like short, squatty, and like bud, like, cola looking stacks of male flowers. So that was my selection when I did the F2 or the second pollination using that seed stock. The first pollination I used just, I think three males just to like keep all the traits in. I didn't want to exclude any traits on the first pollination.
Man, that's really cool that you're working with those genetics that have been, kept for so long and then doing some real outcrossing essentially.
Yeah. And I love the like landrace thing. I've always messed with weird Thais and North Indian and Brazilian seeds that I got, and just weird landracey stuff. And there's all kinds of jokes about the landrace strains. All are like kind of not impressive. And I felt like, oh, this one is actually, this Balochistan it's an heirloom. It's been bred by guys who know what's up and been doing it forever. So, and when I grew it, I was like, oh, this is kind of special. It's frosty and does the thing and is vigorous and fat buds and all that. So I felt like, oh, this is one that's worthy of doing this landrace outcross breeding thing with and preservation.
Right.
And I still have a bunch of those seeds. Like there was like 6 different batches on the drop I bought. And like, I think I've only used like 2 of them. I used one. It was the Mastung #1 was the main one I used in the breeding. And I popped one of the other ones too, but didn't use it. Nice. But yeah, their seeds are widely available. And,
that's cool though. What was the weirdest strains that you've run into? Brazil is something that I haven't heard a ton about, or like, Japan is one of the ones that kind of like you mentioned, I hear it's more like hempy, but it's rare. What are some weird ones that you've seen or heard of?
Brazilian was real sativa. I can't remember. There's a name for what they call kind of the wild ganja down there in Brazil. I can't remember what it was, but very sativa, as you would think.
Sure.
So I guess the coolest thing I can say about this whole idea of taking seeds from location and bringing them into your environment and growing them is that one year, me and my family, me and my parents are up in India in the Himalayas, trekking around, going to these ancient like pilgrimage sites. And I got the keen eye, and I'm into plants and nature, so I'm seeing it everywhere, like growing wild, growing in people's backyards, and I'm like freaking out, like losing it, like on the bus going from one like hike, one trailhead to the next, and I'll see it, and I'm just like, oh my god, what the? I want to smell that, I want to see. Apparently the bus driver like recognized this, and he's noticed me, and he was like, Mr. Miles, like, here, look at these. We pull up and park, and right as I'm getting off, Mr. Miles, look at these plants over here. Aren't these the ones that you like? Like, he knows what's up. And I'm like, oh yeah. And he's like, these you can look at. They're just on the side of the road. Like, nobody's gonna mind if you hop over this little rock wall and look at these. And that kind of started me on it of being like, oh my god, like I can actually like, and they're all pollinated, like, so I'm like actually pulling seeds out of these plants and like harvesting them, drying them out in my hotel room that night and stuff like that. Yeah, so that was really a cool experience to take seed, and I brought them back. I like smuggled them back in some tea bags, like back to the States, and I grew those out, and they were, from the Himalayas to the Appalachians. I was still back east in North Carolina at this point, and I grew those out, and like they acted all crazy and wild, and I was just like, what the fuck? It doesn't look anything like what it. I mean, I picked plants that had like wide leaves or hybrid looking leaves, and when I brought them back and grew them in North Carolina, they had like super narrow, like
they're like, nope, we're not going to express that shit you wanted.
Right. It's just like, man, the environment dictates it so much. And it was really interesting because I brought other seeds. I probably big no, but I brought like cultivated other plants back from India and grew them, and they all grew like so weird for some reason. The environment just so different that yeah,
that's true, man. When I was growing some of the landrace crosses in my basement in Illinois, all the polyhybrids were doing okay, and then the one landrace strain or landrace cross was so unhappy. Like it was not liking the environment that I put it in.
Yeah,
I guess it's a drawback and a benefit of keeping a plant in one place, right? Is, there's a lot of homogeny that takes place when it comes to the traits, but then if you try to take it somewhere else, you might be in for a little bit of a challenge.
Yeah, and it's about the breeding techniques and stuff. I was, who knows what kind of wild stuff I was picking off of, whether it was bred or just inbred or just, a bird shit it out or who knows. But it was everywhere up there in what was the state? Uttarakhand.
That is wild, man.
It was magical.
Yeah, I was going to say that sounds like a wild story, and it was probably like a lifetime memory picking those seeds off in real time.
Bro, nuts. It was, give thanks for that experience. Thanks to my parents for making me do wild, crazy stuff in my life.
Well, dude, we're at the top of the hour. This episode flew by. Awesome updates on the breeding. I love talking to you about the ferments and soil talk. Where can people find you, brother? Let's do class plugs, website plugs, and direct my audience to find Weed Should Taste Good.
Yes, well, weedshouldtastegood.com, fermentedplantextracts.com. I'll shout out buildasoil.com. You can find me on there. I have at Weed Should Taste Good on Insta, at Fermented Plant Extracts on Insta. They both have Facebook pages, just spelled exactly how they sound. There's the class in November in Houston we were talking about with Touched by Cannabis. That's November 10th, 11th, and 12th in Houston. You can get in touch with me. My email is all over any of these socials. You can hit me in the DMs if you want tickets to that. Or if you want tickets to the Build a Soil Days Living Soil Cup, that's available on my websites.
And that's for the end of October.
Yeah, that's in a couple weeks coming right up on us. Geez, October 20th and 21st. Is that 8 days away? Today's the
Yep.
Crazy. So yeah, October 20th and 21st is the Build a Soil Cup out here in Montrose, Colorado. Get at me on the socials, hit me up, look up the YouTube, Build a Soil YouTube, and watch the 2 videos I did there for teaching how to make the fermented plant extracts. My fertilizer line is pretty unique, not only in like how it works and what it is, but in that I teach people how to make these things, exactly what's in the bottle. I teach people how to make it for free and for charge. So I have like for the charge stuff is a little bit more in depth, but on my website, Fermented Plant Extracts, I have online courses now that people can just go on, download, or stream, and just. I have a couple 1-hour ones. I have a 4-hour really nice and in-depth one where I teach you how to make all these different inputs and the basis of living soil. And I would urge people to check those out. I do live classes every now and then. And yeah, everything's just moving. I'm loving the way that the plant is like taking us all on this journey together, and the people like you and, you know, Farmer John and Nick and Jace and all these like amazing people that like the plant brings into my life and that brings us together. I'm just so grateful that like we have that we're alive in this time that we can do this. You know, because even 20 years ago, if you were into ganja, it was something you shut the fuck up about and didn't talk about, you know?
You ever think about how we're like in a time in history that people are going to study in the future? Like we study the Prohibition era.
100%, dude. I think of that because I used to be a jeweler, and like a lot of the like wire wrap stuff like doesn't get no attention. And I'm like, yo, someday there's going to be like a art gallery opening talking about all these, like there was this time period where these like wooks were like eating acid and it got into crystals, and they were like started wrapping the crystals in wire, and then people started turning it into a crazy art form, and then they started traveling around the world to get the, you know, and all this, you know. So same way with ganja, it's like we're kind of like underappreciated in our time for what we do. And I feel like, especially for, you know, like people like us who are really driven by passion and love for the plant and passion and love for building community and like just sharing love with people around us. Like, I guarantee that, I mean, it's my strong belief, and I feel this very strongly, that we'll be viewed very favorably in the course of history. Like people like you and me, Jordan, for real. Like,
yeah.
They're gonna look back on the things we do in favor and say, the whole world was on this like sleeping through the wake up call bullshit and like sleep and like just falling asleep on the importance of certain things. And there were these other people out there who are about that and bringing that to awareness and showing people those things and teaching it, giving it away for free, building communities around the country. We'll be viewed favorably in the course of history based on our actions, man. That's why I love what you do.
I completely agree, bro. That's well put. And yeah, we are at a time and place in history, man. I'm just glad, like you said, to be able to experience it. This is a wild ride. The cannabis industry is a wild ride, and I'm here for every second of it. I don't like just normalcy, Miles. You know what I mean? I'd rather have highs and lows. You know what I'm saying?
Man, that's just natural. You know, everything comes in cycles and waves. And yeah, I dig, like, I'm not against some like stability in that tip, but it's definitely about just like finding the balance between those experiences, because you're bound to have highs and lows.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't be fun if it was normal all the time. But
how I
being
feel.
able to balance that and being able to really like juggle it is and find your path through it. Not hit the not like dwell in those extremes is a beautiful way to like to live.
Yeah, man, I agree. I couldn't have said it better myself. Listen, man, this was a dope episode. It was nice and educational and a little bit philosophical. And anything you need from Growcast, you just let us know. Okay, Miles?
Yeah, I just want to link up sometime. We got to plan something.
Hell yeah, brother. Hot pot.
Much love, dude.
That's what it's all about. We'll get at that hot pot with Farmer John. Thank you, dear listener. I appreciate you tuning in and listening to this episode. Stay tuned. We got plenty more coming at you every single Monday. I'll never let you down. This is Weed Should Taste Good, and Jordan River signing off saying be safe, everyone, and grow smarter.
Yes, one love.
That's our show. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you to Miles from Weed Should Taste Good, and thank you, dear listener. I appreciate you so much. Before we wrap it up, I want to give some love to AC Infinity, my favorite grow gear manufacturers. ACinfinity.com. Always use code GROWCAST15. Grab yourself a new tent, a new light. Grab yourself a grow kit. Expand that grow room. Get that veg tent going so you can do some staggered runs. Code GROWCAST15 works on all the products at AC Infinity and the grow kits, which come with everything you need to get started growing. Of course, AC Infinity makes amazing, durable tents. They make the best oscillating and inline fans in the game. They make grow lights. They make grow pots. They got scissors. They got protective eyewear. Everything you need is at acinfinity.com, and code GROWCAST15 is the code you use to save. Everybody, you're helping us keep our lights on here, and you're supporting an awesome company, our partners, AC Infinity. We've been with them for years and years now. I remember discovering them when they just had the Cloud line, their inline fans, and now they have all these goodies from the Cloud Ray oscillator to the Cloud Forge humidifier. Find it all. Always use code GROWCAST15, and thank you, AC Infinity. acinfinity.com. All right, everyone, that's all for today. Thank you so much. I appreciate you tuning in. Stay tuned. We got some dope episodes coming up. Sun God is dropping soon. Sun God Seeds. If you're a member, you're familiar with this breeder. He's coming on the show. You guys are going to love that episode. Hygrozyme is coming up. Got a bunch of cool stuff planned. Hope you're killing it in your garden. Stay tuned to this show. Don't touch that dial. And we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Korean natural farming vibes.